The city of London was alive with the morning pulse of ambition. Glass towers reflecting the sun, engines humming, footsteps echoing across the polished marble of a corporate plaza.
Among the stream of executives, one little girl stood out, her soft pink dress brushing against her knees as she clutched a small toy in her hand.
Her name was Charlotte, a quiet 6-year-old whose mother, Helen, worked as a corporate translator for one of the wealthiest businessmen in London, Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, a self-made millionaire whose empire stretched across continents.
That morning was supposed to be routine. Helen had brought Charlotte along because the babysitter had canceled, and she promised her daughter it would only be a short stop before heading home.
But in a single moment, that ordinary morning twisted into something that would change all their lives forever. The morning light poured through the towering glass entrance as Helen crouched beside Charlotte, adjusting her cardigan. Behind them, 3 uniformed security guards stood by a sleek black car parked near the curb. Mr. Thomas had just finished a press meeting and was due to head to another event. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect.
The air was calm, almost rehearsed. Charlotte's curious eyes wandered from her mother to the guards, who were speaking quietly amongst themselves.
She tilted her head, catching words she didn't understand, and then suddenly she did. Helen had been teaching Charlotte small phrases in different languages for fun, and Chinese was one of them.
The girl recognized just enough to freeze where she stood. The words floated from their mouths like ice. The bomb is under the seat. He won't make it past the bridge. Her tiny fingers tightened around her toy. Her breath caught. She didn't move, but the color drained from her face.
Helen noticed her daughter's sudden stiffness and knelt beside Charlotte, concern clouding her expression.
"Charlotte, what's wrong?" she whispered, but the child only stared at the guards, her lips trembling.
Mr. Thomas was walking toward the car, shaking hands with a few associates, smiling as if the world were his.
Charlotte turned toward him, her small voice breaking through the hum of engines and chatter. "Don't get in the car!" For a moment, the corporate plaza froze, heads turned. The girl's cry sliced through the air like an alarm bell.
The guards straightened, their eyes flashing panic before one of them reached for his earpiece.
Helen's heart stopped. She didn't know why Charlotte had shouted, but the terror in her daughter's voice was unmistakable.
Mr. Thomas hesitated mid-stride, confusion and concern blending on his face. Then he saw the girl's trembling hand pointing toward the vehicle.
Something in her eyes, that raw, desperate sincerity, made him step back. "Wait," he ordered. In seconds, the security team moved in, scanning the car.
One of the guards, nervous and sweating, tried to deflect, insisting everything was fine. But when another guard opened the back door, the faint ticking noise silenced every sound in the corporate plaza.
The next moments blurred. Police alarms, panicked shouting, a rushed evacuation. And then the explosion ripped through the parking area, throwing smoke and debris into the sky. The car had detonated prematurely, sparing everyone who had hesitated to climb inside.
Mr. Thomas stood there, shaken but alive. The force of the blast had knocked him backward, his white shirt streaked with dust.
Charlotte clung to her mother's waist, eyes wide, sobbing softly. The surviving guards were apprehended immediately.
2 of them turned out to be imposters, hired through a shadow security firm, part of a plot that investigators later uncovered as a targeted assassination attempt.
Hours later, when the chaos settled, the millionaire sat across from Helen and Charlotte in the sterile confines of a police station in London. His eyes, usually sharp and calculating, now carried something new, gratitude and guilt. "She saved my life," he said softly, looking at the child, who hid half her face behind her mother's arm.
Charlotte didn't answer. She just nodded slightly, her eyes red from crying. Mr. Thomas exhaled slowly, his voice breaking.
"I don't think anyone has ever done that for me before." Days turned into weeks. The news made headlines across the UK. Millionaire saved by child's warning.
But what the cameras didn't capture was how that single act of bravery reshaped the lives of everyone involved. Mr. Thomas visited Helen and Charlotte often. He learned that Helen had been raising her daughter alone since her husband's passing 2 years earlier.
She worked long hours translating documents and attending corporate meetings just to keep their small apartment.
Charlotte had learned bits of Chinese from listening to her mother practice at their apartment, the same language that unknowingly helped her prevent a tragedy.
What began as gratitude soon became something deeper. Mr. Thomas found comfort in their presence, the laughter he'd long forgotten, the warmth of a home he hadn't felt in years.
For Charlotte, he became like the father she missed so deeply, someone who listened to her stories and encouraged her curiosity. For Helen, he was a reminder that kindness still existed in a world that often felt cold and transactional.
Slowly, he began supporting Helen's work, funding a language education program in Charlotte's name to help children from struggling families learn foreign languages.
"So they can be brave too," he said with a gentle smile. But what truly changed Mr. Thomas wasn't the act of being saved.
It was realizing how little things he had ignored in his life could mean everything. He had spent decades building walls of wealth and power, but it took a child's innocent courage to show him that humanity still mattered more than any empire.
Months later, as the three of them stood together on the same plaza where it all happened, London alive around them, Mr. Thomas turned to Charlotte and said, "You didn't just save my life.
You reminded me what it means to live it." The little girl smiled shyly and looked at her mother, who squeezed her shoulder proudly.
The glass building behind them reflected the morning sun, a quiet symbol of new beginnings, not born of money or fame, but of love, courage, and second chances.
Charlotte's bravery reminds us that even in a world full of fear, a child's heart can save not just one life, but many.
And for Helen and Mr. Thomas, that one act of courage was enough to rewrite the story of their lives.
A story of faith, humanity, and the power of doing what's right, no matter how small or scared you feel.
Because kindness spoken in any language can save the world. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that courage knows no age and that kindness spoken in any language can save the world,
Please like this video, subscribe to Third Person View, and share it with someone who needs to believe in the enduring power of human connection. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that matter.
Before we close, I want to ask you, what lesson about humanity or gratitude did Charlotte's innocent bravery teach you today? Comment below. I'll be reading every single one.